welcome everyone. I just want to thank you all for tuning in live here at What's Up Media Network for tonight's forum. My name is Nadia Nasser, and I am a trustee on the D7 school board, and I will be your host for tonight's forum. Tonight, we have 3 candidates facing the primary on August 2nd for the Michigan State House District 3. We have 3 Democratic candidates joining us tonight. In no particular order, we have Alabas Farhat, Samraa Luqman, and Khalil Othman. There is 1 Republican candidate, however, they are unopposed, and there will be a forum post-primaries with the Democratic candidate that moves forward and the Republican candidate. This newly drawn district consists of parts of Dearborn, Detroit, and Melvindale, as shown on the screen. You guys want to take a look and just see the boundaries and everything to see if you are in that district, as it is the new one. All right, and so a couple of procedures before we get in. We have 3 candidates joining us today: Alabas Farhat, Samraa Luqman, and Khalil Othman. Please welcome them into the live. Hello, all. I hope you guys are all doing well.
Hi.
Great.
Can everyone hear me?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I know how you guys know how all of this runs, but I'm just going to give a couple of procedures. Each candidate will have an intro of 2 minutes, and there will be a total of 5 questions, and each question will have each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question, and the closing will be 2 minutes. Once you have reached the 10-second mark, I will put my hand up for you to just finish up your last thought, and then we will move on to the next question. Does anyone have any questions before we get started? Okay. And to the audience watching live, be sure to ask questions and be interactive within the comments. And always please follow and share the link on the WhatsApp Media page to stay updated and follow the election as we move forward. Without further ado, let's get right into it. In no particular order, I will be asking the questions, and I will be switching up the order in which I do ask the questions. And so the first question is for Khalil and Mr. Khalil Othman, and the question is, the newly drawn 3rd district will be the first time that Dearborn, Detroit, Melvindale has such a significant split in its jurisdiction in Lansing. Each area presents its own unique challenges, demographics, and priorities. How have you prepared yourself to learn the issues specific to each city? Go ahead, whenever you're ready.
All right. Do I have to go with the introduction first or directly answer?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I meant the introduction. Mr. Othman, go ahead with your 2-minute introduction.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Thank you, What's Up Media Network, and thanks to all the listeners who tuned in or who will watch later. My name is Khalil Othman, and like millions of immigrants who came before me, my dream for a better life led me to America. When I settled in Durban almost 20 years ago, I had just gotten married. I had no money, no jobs, and I did not speak a word of English. Today, by the grace of God, I'm a college graduate with a master's degree in information technology, a community servant, homeowner, and a proud husband and the father of 5 children. I'm running to be your common sense voice in Lansing. I'm running because I want to give back to our great country. I want to make sure that opportunities that help me improve my life are there for our children and grandchildren. Today, I'm leading the cybersecurity team for the 4th largest auto company in the world. I'm part of a team that spans across racial, religious, and political lines. Nevertheless, we are united in one common goal: making our company successful. When I hire someone to our team, I'm looking for the best and the brightest, and someone who is reliable, honest, hardworking, and a proven problem solver. This is the same attitude I will bring as your representative. My governance philosophy is simple. I will support policies that will help families in our district, and I will oppose any policy that is harmful to families in our district. Our district faces many challenges, whether it's the repeated flood that has devastated our neighborhoods, a crumbling infrastructure, high cost of living, a polluted environment, or an educational system that is failing our children. It would be my honor to earn your vote on or before August 2nd as your District 3 representative. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Othman. We're going to go ahead with Mr. Farhat. We have 2 minutes, and I will put my hand up at the 10-second mark.
Excellent. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, WhatsApp Media Network, and to everyone that's joining us tonight. My name is Alabas Farhat. I'm running for the 3rd House District, which is made up of Dearborn, Detroit, and Melvindale. My background is in public health, and my actually bachelor's degrees in public health. I'm completing my master's in public policy currently. For the last few years, I've worked in government. I've worked in these very same communities that today I'd look to represent in Lansing. And I have the experience to navigate policy, to understand how it impacts us, and to fight for the issues we care about. We need bold leadership in Lansing. Let's call it for what it is. We need someone who is going to be willing to speak their mind and stand up for the values that we care about. Someone who's going to be able to fight for every corner of this district, and who's going to be able to represent whether it's the neighborhoods in Detroit or Dearborn and Melvindale with the same strength, same energy, and same vigor that they deserve. We have some real problems that we're facing, where we have to reinvest in our public schools, and we have to reinvest in our curriculum. We have to improve our infrastructure. We have to build this economy back. I was on the front lines during the COVID-19 pandemic when families were most hurt, whether it was at food distribution drives, working with the Economic Development Department at Wayne County and understanding how we gave relief packages to workers who had to stay at home because of the pandemic, right? And now we're going door to door. We've knocked over 15,000 doors, having conversations and hearing firsthand what issues and what values people care about, because that's what this is about, right? If you look to hope to represent somebody, you have to take the time to learn what it is that they're looking for in a representative. And so I'm excited about this opportunity. I'm excited to bring this fight to Lansing, and I'm excited to bring some real wins to the 3rd House District. I feel like I'm well equipped to do so given my background.
Thank you, Mr. Farhat. I appreciate that. Mrs. Luqman, you'll have 2 minutes for your introduction. And when I put my hand up, that means you have 10 seconds left. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. My name is Samraa Luqman. I am running for State House District 3. I have been an activist and an advocate for the community for literally decades. I started my stint at public service when I was just 12 years old, volunteering at a VA medical center. When I was 16, I attended my first public meeting at the Board of Education in Dearborn to speak up against social injustice. And since then, I've been fighting against environmental injustice, corporate polluters. I've been fighting for students with disabilities on municipal issues. People who know me as a fighter, as an advocate for the weak and the oppressed, and as an activist in my community for what's right. And that's regardless of any political election, regardless of any self-interest that exists out there. I've been doing the work for decades. This year, I decided to run for state representative because I felt like we needed a qualified representation in Lansing and someone who has been doing the work, someone who's been in public service for a very, very long time. Because of my resume, because of my experience, not just even in my advocacy work, even in my career field, I've been in the public schools. I've been serving as a federal civilian employee for over 10 years. I definitely have the qualifications and the experience that will help get us to where we need to be. Now, I'm also a fighter, and that means that if you have a problem with city issues, if you have a problem with your schools, if you have a problem with the state, I'm someone who can be relied on, who is relied on by the community, who people come to when they need help. I'm there for the community, for people in general. And I believe that's what's needed, is to have the heart for others in order to be able to fight for them. Someone who doesn't just sell words. I'm there with a track record of experience and having done the work. So I'm asking everyone to make sure to go vote samluqman.com, look at my website, see my qualifications and what I've done, and go out and vote for me on August 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Luqman. I appreciate the response. Now going into the questions for real this time. The first question is for Mr. Farhat, and the question is: the newly drawn 3rd district will be the first time that Dearborn, Detroit, and Melvindale has such significant split in its jurisdiction in Lansing. Each area presents its own unique challenges, demographics, and priorities. How have you prepared yourself to learn the issues specific to each city? Your answer will consist of 1.5 minutes. And when I put my hand up, you'll have 10 seconds left. Go ahead, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so I love that question because to me, to learn and to represent a district, you have to learn their issues. And the biggest way we've been doing that is by going door to door and talking to people on the streets, hearing their concerns on their doorsteps, listening to them. And I do one thing that I'm very proud of, and that's I put my personal cell phone on every piece of literature. Every piece that we send out, my cell's on it. And the calls that I get, the conversations that I have, and the concerns that I hear inform me about just how much people are hurting in this district. I hear firsthand the stories, whether it's a single mom struggling in Detroit public schools to find the resources she needs for her child, or it's homes in Dearborn concerned about the next flood, or it's people in Melvindale concerned about public safety. We can work together in this new combined front to address all of these issues. Because this is the first time I look at this as a positive. This is the first time that the city of Dearborn can leverage the strength of our neighbors and of our neighboring cities to achieve some massive wins. Flooding is not a Dearborn issue. The environment is not just a Dearborn issue. These are issues that impact all three communities and that impact the region as a whole. And this is the first time that we'll have a seat that can leverage these assets together and to deliver wins that matter the most. We've done some of the most important work in any campaign, visiting houses of worship, visiting senior centers, and just having these conversations. And so when you ask, how have I prepared myself? It's by doing the work, knocking the doors, and talking to people where they are.
Thank you, Mr. Farhat, for that answer. We're going to move on to Ms. Luqman. I'm going to repeat the question. It is, the newly drawn 3rd district will be the first time that Dearborn, Detroit, and Melvindale has such a significant split in its jurisdiction in Lansing. Each area presents its own unique challenges, demographics, and priorities. How have you prepared yourself to learn the issues specific to each city?
So the wonderful thing about what I've been doing with my entire life is fighting injustices across the spectrum. They don't know any boundaries. Air pollution doesn't know any boundaries. So when I've been fighting air pollution and corporate polluters, I've been fighting Marathon, which has affected Detroit and Melvindale, as well as Dearborn. I've been fighting polluters in Dearborn. I've been fighting all across. I've been educating people about PFAS contamination going into Dearborn Heights and across the spectrum. When I advocate for students with disabilities, I don't say you have to live in such and such an area. I advocate for kids in Lincoln Park and Dearborn Heights and Detroit, everywhere. When I do all these things that I've been doing for decades long, I don't have to start new with a campaign to learn somebody's issues. I mean, I knock on doors, I ask them what things are important to them, and I do learn things from them as well that I may not have known. But over the years, my experience, my breadth of experience in activism and advocacy has given me the background knowledge and foresight to know what I and my neighbors and my community members and the cities surrounding us are fighting for. What is ailing us? Infrastructure, yes. Environmental issues, yes. But I've been fighting the fights. I've been doing the work. I've been showing up at the cities with the residents, at the Eagle permit hearings with the residents. I've been doing this alongside residents from across the cities, and I just don't have to learn it just during an election time. It's something I've been doing for decades.
Thank you, Ms. Luqman, for your answer. Mr. Othman, would you like to repeat the question? Would you like me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay, you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Well, thank you for that question. This is really great because I want to highlight my point about this new redistricting. It's for the first time in history. We are fortunate enough to have 3 representatives that will go out from Dearborn and represent us in Lansing, along with our nearby cities. In terms of the issues that are impacting or how I have prepared myself to address these issues, it's simply by talking to people, visiting people and talking to the people over there in Melvindale, the people over there in Warrendale area, and the people in Dearborn. There are common issues that are impacting every single community, and there are some unique issues that are impacting certain communities. For example, the crumbling infrastructure. It's a common issue that is impacting not only Dearborn or Melvindale or Warrendale. It's impacting many cities around Dearborn. And environmental issues. This is another issue that does not stop at the borderline of any city. So, and there are some unique issues compared to each location or each area. For example, if we look at Melvindale area, they are struggling with the crumbling infrastructure and the educational system. Our residents over there, they don't even have the means of transportations to get their kids back and forth from school. And they are struggling with high property taxes and high water bills. So the same thing we are...
Your time is up, Mr. Othman. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for the response. So moving on to our second question, we're going to start with Ms. Luqman. The question is, if you're elected, what do you see as the largest area of fiscal need within the district and why? Please list specific issues to highlight your areas of importance and rationale to And also why these issues rise to the top of your priority list?
The highest issues of fiscal need, I would say, are infrastructure. We were hit with a lot of 100-year storms within a few short years. I know some parts of Dearborn had it every 7 years. Where I live, it's every couple of years. So infrastructure is definitely one that I want to make sure we're investing in. In doing so, that doesn't just mean just the sewage. It includes roads. It includes, renewable energy. It includes a whole slew of issues. So number one on my priority list is definitely getting infrastructure funding to the area, to my area, my district. And I do have I have a number of different plans on getting there to help low-income families, as well as helping our different cities get the different funding they need for their issues that are important to them. That's the first priority I have. The second one would be education. I want to ensure there's school safety. I want to ensure that our children are funded properly and appropriately. While the state may have given some additional funding this year, I don't see it as enough to sustain students with special needs or students in general in the public school system. So those are some of my definite top priorities in ensuring that our residents are safe first with and protected against climate change, but then also that our education system is upheld.
Thank you, Ms. Luqman, for the response. We're going to go ahead next with Mr. Othman.
Honestly, infrastructure and education goes hand in hand when it comes to priorities, and the crumbling infrastructure that we have witnessed in last year and years before, and the flooding that devastated our neighborhoods. It's my top priority when I will be your representative. There is a lot of money over there in Lansing as part of the infrastructure bill, and Michigan by itself, it has about $10 million. Most of that money will go to the infrastructure fix. So I will be advocating to get as much money as possible to come to Dearborn and Melvindale and Warrendale area. And based on my experience, whatever solutions do we have today, I don't think we have a solid solution to solve our infrastructure problems. But we started with a good step, which is the assessment. And as a leader in the past, with the disaster recovery as a disaster recovery manager with the Stellantis, I know what it takes to build a recovery time or a recovery time point objective when it comes to respond to a disaster. There is certain steps that every single professionals has to take when they respond to a disaster. And the first step is the assessment. And that's a good step that our new administration has taken to evaluate what went wrong and how can we fix it.
Thank you, Mr. Othman, for the response. I really appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and continue on with Mr. Farhat.
Yeah. So for me, when I talk about fiscal needs, I think, there's a handful of issues. One of them being infrastructure, obviously, and addressing our sewage, and not just that, investing in sustainable and electrical vehicle infrastructure. Investing in infrastructure that's going to be sustainable in the long run is going to be crucial. We have to build Michigan's future economy today. And by doing that, we have to build roads and bridges, as well as electrical vehicle infrastructure and digital infrastructure, like wide access to broadband and affordable internet costs, access to data services is crucial. But more than just that, we have to look at healthcare costs as they continue to climb and rise. That's a big issue throughout this district, is the cost of healthcare, whether it be prescription drug costs or it be the cost to simply see a healthcare provider. We have to look at addressing and controlling these prices and creating fee schedules that are sensible. Prices continue to mount and climb, and I'll tell you, the cost of living has definitely gone up. But that should not mean that the cost of living a good life should force people out of that market. We should not be pricing normal working families out of this market, particularly the healthcare market. I know what it's like to work a job and the importance of getting healthcare from your employer. I think the state can do more in that space. The state can do more to ensure that our folks who are on fixed incomes and defined benefits plans, seniors, can continue to get sustainable healthcare coverage from Medicaid and Medicaid expansion. And our public schools, we always say this, but it really comes down to increasing per pupil spending. Pay our teachers more, give them more resources in order to go into the classroom with the energy and the enthusiasm.
Thank you, Ms. Farhat. Your time is now up. Thank you so much. Our third question is going to start with Mr. Farhat, and the question is, residents are suffering from the high cost of auto insurance in your district. How would you address the issue if elected?
So auto insurance is definitely an issue that continues to plague us. It was something that the previous legislature had addressed with their auto insurance reform. One of the biggest things that we have to do is look at working with, first of all, the state legislator to crack down on corporations who do not secure their vehicles properly. What do I mean by that? I mean Dodge, which is made by is a company that does not secure their Challengers properly. It makes it too easy to be stolen. Dodge vehicles, whether it be Jeeps, I mean, it's too easy. They have to look at putting technological safeguards into them to prevent that from happening and causing the costs from keep going up, right? That is a big deal for me, right? So we have to penalize them, and we have to work together with the Council of Mayors in the state as well as other legislators to crack down on corporations like that. Recently, there was a report that came out that said $5 million worth of vehicles were stolen from 4126 zip code, and that is ridiculous to me. And that cost is being shared onto regular consumers who buy insurance, impacting the regional price. That's one thing we have to do, that whether it be through legislation or partnerships with these corporations to get them to rein in, right? Whether it be Fiat Chrysler, now Stellantis, or it be Ford Motor Company, we have to get them to the table and say, look, you have to secure your vehicles. The second thing we have to do is on redlining. We should not be, where you live should not decide how much you pay for insurance. We should be looking at creating a state risk pool instead of zip coding and cutting people up into different unique districts, which is borderline profiling, which is
Mr.
profiling.
Farhat, your time is done. Thank you so much. Ms. Luqman, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Sure. I really like this question because a lot of the people that I spoke to when I was door knocking talked about some of the loopholes in the current auto insurance bill that they wanted reviewed. And that is something that I'm very interested in doing. I want to make sure that everybody who is in an automobile accident has the coverage they need. But additionally, when it was mentioned about securing vehicles, I actually live in the 48120 zip code where billions of dollars of cars are stolen from the Ford Motor Company lot. And I am one of those people that has to pay for it by having higher insurance premiums. And so I don't believe that's fair. I think that corporations need to pay their fair share. I'm one that will hold them accountable. I'm not going to sit back and cozy up with Ford Motor Company as some politicians do. I'm actually going to hold them accountable. And I also want to make sure that our legislation is written in such a way that we are not disqualifying or penalizing people from, paying more auto insurance just because they live near these factories. After all, we are already paying the price with our health. Why should we additionally pay the price with our money? So as one who is directly impacted by these companies, you can rest assured that I'm going to continue to hold them accountable once I get to the legislature, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Luqman. And Mr. Othman.
This is a big challenge and a big problem for our drivers here in Dearborn and nearby cities, because what we need to look for is basically assess how these insurance companies are charging every single driver and the red lines that my colleagues here talked about in terms of charging people based on the zip codes they live in. It's not absolutely fair to people who have a good driving record and they never get into an accident and they never had any problem in the past. They have to pay the same amount of high cost similar to any other person who's been in problems and careless driving and stuff like that. So the mechanism and the formula that drive this whole auto insurance has to change. We need to take a step back and look at the root cause, what causes all these high auto insurance to go up that high, and start from there and by fixing that formula. And one of them is the zip code. The zip code, and the same thing when that formula looks at how many incidents or how many accidents, how many stolen cars, how many claims are being reported, and they just slap the charges over all the drivers who are living in that zip code, which is not fair. The same thing with the corporate companies. I'm part of a Stellantis, and they have to take their own fair share of helping their.
Mr. Othman, your time is up. Thank you. The next question is, what is your position on reproductive rights in Michigan, and how would you address the high healthcare costs on Michigan families? The question is going to go to Mr. Othman.
Can you repeat the question again?
Of course.
Sorry.
What is your position on reproductive rights in Michigan, and how would you address the high healthcare costs on Michigan families?
Okay, this is another big problem that our residents are facing in Michigan as a whole, and this is becoming a national issue in terms of working families trying to cannot even keep up with their medical bills. There is always co-pays. There is always high bills that actually can break your budget every year. As an elected official and as your representative, I will look for solutions that will at least provide healthcare for all. There is no such thing a family or a single mother or a working family have to suffer how to pay their medical bills while they are trying to bring food to the table.
Thank you, Mr. Othman. The next candidate that will speak is Ms. Luqman.
Thank you. So I'm not going to shy away from this question like some people do. I'm going to address it head on. No matter what my personal belief is and no matter what other people's personal beliefs are, I believe that everybody has the right to make their own personal decisions on their own reproductive health, and they should have healthcare coverage. Healthcare is a basic right, just like having clean air and clean water. These are basic rights that everybody should have access to. And so I was actually very devastated with Roe v. Wade being overturned because, quite frankly, it took away a lot of privacy rights. It took away a lot of women's rights that I, as a woman, am offended by. I want to be the one that has the capability to make my own decision, and I don't appreciate others making them for me. So whether I believe that it is morally correct or religiously incorrect is irrelevant, because somebody else could believe something different from me. And this is a free country. It's the land of the free and the brave. And I think people should be able to make their own decisions. That's regarding healthcare. I do believe in Medicare for all. I believe that everybody should be able to go into a hospital, an emergency room, an urgent care, a doctor's visit without having to worry about medical bills. If the greatest nations across the world are able to do it, from Canada to the UK, and have healthcare for all and succeed in it, then why can't we do it? And if we can't do it nationally, then by God, we should do it, statewide. So that's where I stand on both of those issues.
Thank you, Ms. Luqman, for the answer. I appreciate that. Mr. Farhat, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Rising healthcare costs has to be tackled by putting safeguards into the state. That means putting set fee schedules and preventing health insurance companies from charging, and hospital systems from charging whatever they need. One of the ways we do that is, I know at the federal level right now, they're debating whether Medicare, Medicaid can negotiate prescription drug prices, which would add competitiveness into the market. And that's something I fully support. I do believe that access to healthcare is a basic human right. And it's something that we have to look at improving access to, while also uplifting the quality of services that we offer in the state of Michigan. As it pertains to reproductive rights, I fundamentally believe everyone has the right to access those, and that is a personal decision for individuals to make. That isn't a decision that has to be made unilaterally from the state level or from the federal level. That's a decision that's a personal one. That's between an individual, the healthcare provider, and their own beliefs and their own values. That's not one where government should be infringing on the autonomy of an individual for making decisions for anyone who wants to make these private decisions. More than just that, though, rising healthcare costs, just to circle back to that one, rising healthcare costs are an issue that I take very personal, because as someone who used to work at a pharmacy, I saw countless patients come up to the register. And I'll never forget the story of a single mom who came up to the register and her total was $64.72. She came up to the counter after working a shift to pay for her medication, and her card got declined several times. The feeling of shame she had walking away has left a lasting mark on me. And I think no individual should ever have to make that sacrifice.
Mr. Farhat, thank you so much. I appreciate that question. The last question that we have, we're going to start with Ms. Luqman. And the question is, each candidate thus far has had an interesting path to lead them to where they are today. What specifically has prompted you to run for office? Why this seat? And why do you specifically feel separates you from other candidates?
Well, the thing that separates me from the other candidates, and I appreciate that they always mention the single mom that they want to protect, but I am that single mom. I'm living that life as we speak. I know the struggles of the average person. I've lived them, and I've been the one that's been fighting for them. I fought for single mothers. I fought for families with students with disabilities. I fought for families with cancer because of the corporate polluters. I fought for just about everything under the sun, from flooding, protests against Yemen. I've been there when residents needed someone to be there. I'm the voice that they've relied on. And I wanted somebody in Lansing and in this position that I, as a resident, could also rely on. And honestly, I didn't feel like there was a person on the list that met that criteria, which is why I put my name on the ballot. Because if there isn't somebody that I feel I can go to that will protect my rights, that will fight for me, whether in the city council or the Board of Education or out in Lansing or even in the halls of Congress, then I'm going to do it myself. I will run and I will do it for the people out there. My intent is to ensure that my community, the oppressed, the weak, the marginalized have a voice, that they're protected, that they have someone that they could go to, that they have somebody who will give them services, that they have someone that they can rely on. And honestly, at this point, I've led about 20 years of activism, and my frustrations have gotten to the point where I want to be on the inside making the changes rather than from the outside. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Luqman. And Mr. Othman.
Definitely, this is a changing moment in our community, and for the first time, as I mentioned before, we will have 3 representatives that will represent our community, and I don't think our community will be marginalized anymore. By the end of the day, one of us will be representing after the general election. But I'm in this race because I do believe, and I'm a firm believer, that voting should be exclusively based on experience, vision, and capability. And I'm the only candidate who's coming to this race with 16 years of professional experience, a real experience that worked in a corporate industry, that experience that what we need in Lansing. Beside that experience, I have volunteered more than a decade supporting youth, and I was a commissioner for almost 2 years with the city of Dearborn at Recreation and Parks, advocating for youth across the whole city. So when I look at this seat, I do believe that I am the right candidate that will represent all residents within this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Othman. And Mr. Farhat.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. You know, aside from the collection of endorsements we've picked up, whether it be the Union of Automotive Workers, the American Federation of Teachers, the Michigan Education Association, Dearborn Mayor Abdullah Hammoud, Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan, and then the list goes on of individuals who've trusted us because they know that we're the only candidate that not only has the government experience needed to deliver on these issues, they also know that there's time for activism and there's time for action. And that's what they trust me to do, is be a candidate who can deliver when it matters and when it comes down to it. And that's something that I'm confident in saying, that, you know, being the only candidate with that government experience, the only candidate in the room when decisions have to be made. You know, I know for a fact that the residents of Dearborn, Detroit, and Melvindale will never have to wonder if Alabas Farhat will do the right thing. They know I will. And they know that I'll always continue to be accessible. I'll continue to be available. And I'll continue to have the same energy and vigor that I have on my campaign now with the team that I've assembled to knock doors and meet people where they are. And I'll have that same energy come time when I go to Lansing. Because to me, these issues, while each community is unique, needs somebody who's a unifier, needs somebody who's going to go the extra mile for each neighborhood in this district. And that's something I've proven myself to do. I think fundamentally sets me apart from my colleagues in this race. More than just that, I'll say, you know, I'm proud to be consistent in the fact that having ran in the special election, I'm running again because my commitment to serve in the legislature has not changed. I'm also proud to share one more endorsement, which is that of former state representative or current state representative.
Thank you, Mr. Farhat. Thank you. I appreciate that. So that is all of the questions. And now we will go into the closing statements. Each closing statement will consist of 2 minutes. When I put my hand up, that means we have 10 seconds left. So we will start with Mr. Farhat, your closing statement.
Yeah. So once again, thank you to WhatsApp Media Network for putting this on. Thank you to the viewers at home and anyone who was watching this later on. I ask everyone to please, whether it be for myself or anyone else, remember, make a plan to vote, go and vote. Voting is a fundamental right that is provided to us in this country, and I encourage everyone to do so. More than just that, I encourage them to vote for me, though. Being the candidate who has these endorsements and who has done the work, I encourage everyone to visit votefarhat.com. Find my platform, my fully fleshed out platform on the education system, and now on the soon to come out on the environment that we'll be publishing later tonight. I encourage everyone to go read it and go do their homework, because there's only one candidate here that's actually published plans and policies on how they plan on doing what they say they're going to do. And so I encourage everybody to please review that information and go do the extra mile. I hope to meet people at the doors in these last 12 days or 18 days. And I'm proud to say, again, it's most endorsed and obviously one of the most experienced when it comes to government work. So I look forward to seeing how these next 18 days shake out. And please visit votefarhat.com if there's any more information.
Thank you, Mr. Farhat. Mr. Othman?
Let me unmute. We are only 18 days away from the election. And actually, the absentee voting started a while back. So you need to go out and vote. Take your friends, take your family members, and go out and vote. I am in this race because I want to give back to our country. We are blessed to live here, and I want to make sure our children and grandchildren have the same opportunities that I had. I'm not doing this to launch a political career. I'm doing free will in my current job. I am the only candidate in this race with 16 years of professional experience in leading people, solving problems, and working together towards a common goal. And it's this type of experience that we need in our government. We deserve a government that is part of the solution, not the problem. A government that works for families and not against them. It would be my honor to earn your vote on or before August 2nd. Lastly, should I be honored to earn your trust and your vote, I promise you this. I will put my heart and soul to work with you to make our 3rd district one of the best districts in Michigan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Othman. Mrs. Luqman?
Thank you. So I just want to correct the record regarding professional experience. I've had 10 years working with the federal government as a federal civilian employee. I actually resigned from my job in order to run for state rep because of a violation of the Hatch Act. I also have 5 years working in the public school system, additional couple of years working in pharmacies and surgical offices. So I definitely have more professional experience than you both combined. Regarding experience, advocacy and activism, it's so convenient to say that activism shouldn't come into politics. That's the problem, I think, with politics today, is that we keep electing people with promises, and it all turns out to be smokes and mirrors in the end. I urge voters to look at people who have been doing the work, somebody who's been there, who's reliable, who's actually put their money where their mouth is, and who stood up for students with disabilities, who stood up for teachers. I don't care what the endorsements, come from with all these PACs. We all know how they work. We all know how politicians work, how they'll scratch each other's backs, and then you become beholden to them. At the end of the day, I've literally stood up for all of these people. I've stood up for people that have had diseases because of the corporate polluters. I'm in the middle of suing them as we speak. So, I mean, we could talk about when it's convenient to be an activist and when it's convenient to be a politician. But at the end of the day, I've been doing the work, and that speaks volumes in of itself. I would hate for anybody to try to take away from my work, because no matter what happens in this election or any upcoming election, I'm going to continue doing what I do best, and that's fighting for the people that need it, fighting for the people that have been flooded, fighting for the people that have missed out on services from the city, from the school systems, from wherever it might be. So I ask people to please consider me for your vote on August 2nd. And even now, you can go in person and vote at the clerk's office with early voting in place. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Luqman, for that statement. I just want to thank all the candidates for being here tonight and answering the questions. And I also want to thank all the members of the audience for tuning into WhatsApp Media Network. Just a reminder that we will be hosting another forum next Thursday, July 21st at 7 p.m. right here on WhatsApp Media Network for the candidates of Michigan State House District 15. Make sure to tune in live right here at WhatsApp Media Network, and be sure to share this live on all your platforms so all of your friends and families can view this and make an informed decision on who to vote for on August 2nd. Thank you, and everyone, and I hope you guys have a great night.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.